So, Clodagh, today's court proceedings started with a letter being handed from the jury to the judge, Justice Alexander Owens, and it was relating to concerns the jury had about being photographed within the court.
Yeah, so the jury passed a note down to the judge through the foreman. They said that they were at the fear that their images were going to be circulated among the public. Apparently, there was an incident yesterday, they said, where their phone had been pointed down. Unsure if that meant it had been video or video or photograph. But the judge did say that he was taking it seriously. He made a note to those in the public gallery above that only those who can sit there can sit there. You shouldn't be standing up there. That the court is not at the obligation to provide seating for everyone in the public. He then said it was contempt of court to take photographs of the jury and that there would be steps taken to deal with that matter if anyone is suspected of doing so.
So the public gallery is kind of hanging over the courtroom. It's an old-fashioned courtroom and it's sort of on a balcony as such. Yeah. And I'm sure you don't know, but names aren't being taken of people going into the public gallery. It's open to anyone, is it?
It's open to anyone. They did, at this point, direct a guard to go and stand up and monitor the public gallery to ensure that nobody was acting inappropriately in court.
Okay. So that dealt with Nikita Hand is back in the witness box. We left yesterday. She was under cross-examination by Remy Farrell, the senior counsel who's acting for Conor McGregor, who has denied rape, admitted that he had consensual sex with Nikita Hand, but denied these rape claims, as has James Lawrence. You told us yesterday that she was under a lot of cross-examination in relation to CCTV video of herself in the Beacon Hotel and others there, and that the day finished with an audio recording 45 minutes long that her boyfriend had taken when she eventually arrived home 2 days after her Christmas party began, and him questioning her, asking her what had happened and looking for her to give him basically details of who had assaulted her.
Yeah. So the CCTV footage was 45 minutes long. This piece of audio was 38 minutes long. Today the cross-examination began in relation to that, and it really focused on what she had, the conversation between her and her ex-boyfriend Steve, which is obviously what's heard in the audio. So the cross-examination begins with it's put to her that there's no reason for her to be telling Stephen any more lies when she got home. And it's put to her that she didn't want to give the name of Conor McGregor, and she agreed with that. She then went on to say that she knew that she told him lies, that at that time she didn't want to tell him the truth. And when asked what lies she told, she said the lies she told were that she was with the girls from her job, but in fact she was just with one, namely Danielle. She also agreed that it was put to her that she lied about being in the Morgan Hotel, but she said no, she genuinely thought that she was in the Morgan. In fact, she was in the Beacon Hotel. It was put to her that she said that she was in the Morgan bar, and she said no, I said I was in the Morgan. And regarding this, she said that the reason she thought she was in the Morgan was because of the bath, the interiors in the hotel in the Beacon. And she did say, I thought I was in the Morgan. I told him that I was in the Morgan, but I didn't want to tell him the truth. She said she lied to her boyfriend, and it's as simple as that. But me lying to my boyfriend doesn't take away what happened to me. She said lying to your boyfriend isn't a crime, but what happened to me is. It was then put to her that she lied because the fact of the matter was there was 2 men and 2 women in a hotel room. She said no, she thought she was going to a party, and it was put to her again that she told a significant amount of lies, and it was a simple proposition that she didn't want to say. It was just her and a friend in a hotel room with 2 men, to which she agreed. The cross-examination continues, discussing the various lies, what she told Steve, why she told Steve what she told Steve. She said on a number of occasions to Stephen that the suspect who had raped her would kill her, and she said, was asked her, is this a reference to Mr. McGregor? And she said yes. However, it was put to her in her initial interview with Gardaí that she never once said that Mr. McGregor had threatened to kill her, and at this point she said that she simply can't remember. Then we move on to the query of where the other women were, her other friends. Stephen, in the audio, you can hear him asking where the other friends were, and you can hear Nikita replying she doesn't know where they were, she just ran out. And she said she can't comment on what she said then. She was just confused and hurt. it was put to her that this comment about running out was similar to something she had told Emer Brennan, who was her manager at the salon. And if we remember, Emer is the friend she went to her home after she left the hotel with James Lawrence. And we also heard from her on the stand today, which we'll come to later on. But it was put to her that it was a similar story she had told Emer Brennan. And she said that she had been raped and battered, that she didn't actually care where the other people were, because all she cared about in that moment was her body and herself. It was put to her then that she knew full well at that point Danielle had gone home significantly earlier in the day. And again, she repeated that it wasn't anyone else that she cared about in that moment. It was just herself. It was put to her that she didn't tell him that Danielle, who the name of the friend was, because she didn't want him ringing her friends, and she disagreed with that.
This is to Steve.
This is to Steve, yeah. She disagreed with that. It was then put to her by Conor McGregor senior counsel that Danielle went off with a violent rapist, yet you made no contact with her until the following day. And she said, she didn't contact her until she was in the sexual assault unit of the Rotunda. And at this point, she explained that she didn't recall being raped immediately when she woke up. So we seen in that CCTV footage yesterday at about 4 o'clock, Danielle leaves the hotel with Conor McGregor. It's Nikita's testimony that she didn't recall being raped until after that. It wasn't until she went back up to the room with James Lawrence that she recalled what had happened to her allegedly earlier in the day with Conor McGregor.
Okay. So she is brought to that point. Is that the end of Farrell's cross-examination of her?
No, it does continue. At this point, the cross-examination on that is complete from his perspective, from Conor McGregor senior counsel. He then goes on to ask her a little bit about sertraline, which is an antidepressant medication that she was on. She had started taking it in June of 2018, which was 6 months prior to the incident. She was on 50 milligrams. Asked why she was on the medication, she said that she had a bit of depression. She was feeling down. She had broken up with her boyfriend Stephen around this time. They had bought a house together, so she was very stressed because of the prospect of having to move home. And obviously after the breakdown of the relationship, she was asked if she had had panic attacks prior to the incident in December with Conor McGregor, and she said no. However, it was pulled up by the senior counsel for Conor McGregor's legal team, and it was put to her that there was mention in her records from that time in June 2018 when she asked for assistance that she had been having panic attacks. She also was put on Xanax at the time. She did say she couldn't remember being put on Xanax.
So these are her medical records that have obviously are with the defence, essentially, the Conor McGregor's senior counsel. He's reading these medical records and he can see on them that she has, in order to get, or before she's put on this, claimed to have had panic attacks.
Yes. So she's saying that she doesn't recall making that claim to a doctor. She has repeatedly said that this was 6 years prior, that if that's what she said then, she agrees with it, but she can't recall exactly what she said at those times. She was asked as well if she took the medicine every day. She said at the time she did. She was asked if it would make, would she notice any difference if she weren't to take it? And she said no. Then went on to discuss the rape, and in relation to statements she gave at the sexual assault treatment unit, it was put to her that she described the incident happening between midnight and 2 a.m, to which she said she doesn't recall. We also were made aware that there was a full toxicology done of her bloods, but all that was found in that was alcohol and cocaine. Senior counsel for Conor McGregor then went on to discuss her claim in particular, which was for loss of earnings. So he's put it to her that you're suggesting, had the events not happened in December of 2018, you would have been able to go on and set up your own salon, to which she replied, I would love to have set up my own salon one day and it would have been a dream. It was put to her that she was working part-time prior to the incident, and she said yes. She was then asked if she had any plans to have further children. She said yes, she would love to have more children. It was then put to her that setting up your own salon might need a particular set of administration skills, and he said it was put to her that it wasn't a criticism, but you don't have specific qualifications pertaining to that, and she said in her belief she does have those to be able to do it. And it was then put to her that she took a couple of years off after having her daughter, and she agreed with that. Then they moved on to discussion in relation to her Instagram stories. So this was the initial interaction she had with Conor McGregor on the 9th of December in 2018, in which he had replied to a photograph she had put up on Instagram. And it was put to her that it was in the understanding of the senior counsel that she was following him on Instagram, but he was not following her back, to which he agreed. But she had put this picture up and you could select people who could see it. And she agreed that she put the story up and he was one of the people selected that could see this story, and that's how the messaging began.
Was the details of what that picture was or when it was taken, was this a Christmas party picture?
No, it was at... I believe the picture was put up on Instagram when she was at the Christmas party, because it was asked of her. He had asked her, "Where are you?" And she had said, "I'm at my Christmas party." And it's from this interaction that they went on to Conor McGregor saying that he would pick her up at the salon, which happened the next morning. Then it was put to her, the cross-examination from Conor McGregor's legal team is coming to an end near at this point. It was put to her that they were driving around pointlessly in the car. So it was Conor McGregor, Danielle, Nikita, as well as a driver. And it was put to her that they were just driving around pointlessly. And at some point near the end of this 2-hour window between she's collected at the salon at, I believe, about 10:17 a.m. and they arrive at the hotel at around 12:17 a.m. So 12:17 p.m. So there is about a 2-hour gap there. But at some point here, Conor McGregor, they pick up James Lawrence, and it's put to her that it's because there was 2 women in the car and Conor, so they were looking for another man, so to speak, for a double date. And she said, I don't know what he was thinking. It was put to her that during phone calls, was there anything said to Conor McGregor that would, in effect, make him believe that he, in fact, was coming to her party at the salon? And she said no, because he said that he'd come and collect us. Then it was put to her about the security guards. Did you speak to them? Did you speak to the driver? And she said she doesn't remember who he was, but yes, she did speak with him. She asked him, had he got kids? He seemed like a nice person. And she was asked, is it one of the security guards from the hotel that she was speaking to in the car? And she agreed.
So that was the end of Remy Farrell, the senior counsel. That was the end of the cross-examination by Conor McGregor's legal team. She also has to be put under cross-examination, of course, because there's 2 defendants in this. There's James Lawrence and there's Conor McGregor. No criminal charges have been taken against either. In actual fact, we heard details during this trial that the DPP chose not to prosecute either of them on rape or sexual assault charges, but they both nonetheless have legal representation in this civil case, and both are entitled to cross-examine any witness that is there. So James Lawrence's legal team, they choose also to cross-examine Nikita Hand.
Yes, so Mr. Fitzgerald, for his senior counsel in his legal team, takes on the cross-examination. And he said in particular, he explained that he was going to be dealing with the aspects of the case relating to Mr. Lawrence. He put it to her that he told the court really that it was a curious feature of the James Lawrence's involvement in the case. He said that he's not here because of what Nikita Hand had said, but in fact what he had said himself. So he brought himself into this case by something he told Gardaí in 2019, and he did so after after Nikita had a number of opportunities to discuss what had happened. So it was put to her that the first person she told about what had happened was Emer Brennan, who again we'll hear from later on, and she agreed. And it was put to her that there was one clear aspect of that story, and that was that you were talking about a single lone assailant, to which she agreed. She said, yes, one assailant, I've got no problem with James. The jury then had the transcripts of the conversations that were had, both over text message, the conversation from the audio. They've got all those transcripts so they can go through them, the CCTV, everything like that. They'll have copies of that to go back through themselves when they go off to do their deliberations. And she agreed that, yes, in all of the conversations or every kind of admission she had about the events of that night, it's singular he and not they pertaining to her claim of rape.
And Clodagh, sorry, when she said, I've no problem with James, was this in a conversation with Emer back in 2018?
No,
or
this
did she
was on
say
the
that
stand
today on the
today.
stand?
This was on the stand today. So the first witness was Dr. Kane from the SATU clinic, which is the sexual assault treatment unit at the Rotunda, on the 10th of December. And we heard it was read to the court by James Lawrence's senior counsel. It was put to her that one aspect of the role of Dr. Kane, who was one of the first witnesses, was to take a very brief summary of the allegations and to determine the number of assailants, and to which it was, taken note of that there was only one assailant, one accusation of rape, to which she agreed. Again, on the 19th of December, she said he, not they, to her doctor. Then the judge interrupted this and said she clearly had no idea she had any sex with your client, to which it was put to her that she had discussed matters, again, with the Rape Crisis Centre on the 19th of December. And again, it was a singular incident. It wasn't they, it was he. And she agreed. Again, she met Gardaí on the 5th of January 2019. So nearly a month later after the incident, there was 150 pages, a very lengthy interview that deals with matters. So they went through the sequence of events that night twice. And in both of those accounts, she again it was he. There was one singular assailant. It was not day that she was saying.
So in other words, when she met the police, this is what's been put to her, that she made a complaint purely about Conor McGregor and never made a complaint about James Lawrence.
Correct. Yes. And at the time she was asked, was there any other sexual relations with anyone else between the time of the rape and the time she arrived home to her partner Stephen? And it was an emphatic no. She denied it completely. Then the senior counsel for James Lawrence said that he'd kind of got involved in matters nearly himself, because obviously he was a witness. So Gardaí went to interview him, and they interviewed him on the 17th of January, and he gave a statement, and it was what was said in that statement that has kind of drawn him into this case as a
co-defendant.
As a co-defendant, exactly. So in that statement, he said that he had sex with her on 2 occasions, and she was brought back 2 weeks later to discuss what he had said in his statement, because it did not match up with what she had said in her statement. So in this kind of detailed interview, and she had read kind of aspects of what he had said, and she was shown stills of CCTV, and she was questioned about it by the Gardaí, and this was the first time that she was hearing that James had said that he had consensual sex with her twice in the bedroom in that period of time after she came back up and before she left later on at 10 o'clock.
And that's put to her in court today, and it's taken from the Garda investigation into this claim. So in other words, she was told that about these allegations of having consensual sex with James Lawrence were more than a month later.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it was put to her, again, they put to her original statement that she gave to her legal counsel when they were questioning her on the stand about it. And she said that from what James Lawrence had said about her, she was shocked. She had no memory whatsoever about what happened. Again, she said she had no problem with James. She was shocked because he was telling her to calm down. He was getting her food. He was trying to get her a drink. And she said, I thought he was looking out for me. And then he goes and says things like that. She was in complete shock. And it was asked of her, why do you not believe him when he says that he had consensual sex with you? And she said, no, I think he's lying about having sex with me. It was then put to her that, in other words, is that you remember being in a room and having sex with Conor McGregor. And she said, I remember being in a room and being raped by Conor McGregor. It was then put to her that she came into the hotel at 12:15 that day, and she was asked to put a time frame on when the incident with him happened in the bedroom. And she had said that it wasn't long after getting to the hotel. It was put to her then. She said, I don't remember. She was like, again, it was 6 years ago. I can't recall what I said at the time. So the judge said, do you accept you said what you said and you can't recall it now? To which she agreed. It was then put to her that if that was true, what she had said, it would mean that if it happened not long after you got back to the hotel, you would have been asleep for a period of 5 hours. Because remember, we heard that after they had sex in the bedroom, she fell asleep, woke up. This text message was sent to Stephen, which she says she thought she sent as soon as she got out of bed. She sent this text message saying that she was still on the go. She was having a great time with the girls. Then we saw CCTV yesterday, which puts that text message actually occurring while she was in the basement with James, which she knows she has no memory of that period of time of that CCTV footage in the basement or going up and down in the lift, which we've discussed at length. So he's saying to her, it would mean that you were asleep for 5 hours. And the judge is saying, well, that's your calculation, that 5 hours. So it was then put to her that a lot went on in that period. And we hear now James Lawrence's version of events of what happened that day.
And this is all put to her.
This is all put to her. So it's put to her that she was very affectionate with Conor McGregor and she was pulling out of him. She said she has no memory of that. It was then put to her that they were both happy and laughing, and at some point they went from one room to another where the bath was. So again, we're hearing about they're in the sitting room and there's a door and then they go into the bedroom. The judge then intervened and said, you couldn't recall, but the point that's being put to you, he explained, was that you were in the living room and lovey-dovey stuff was going on with Conor McGregor, which is the exactly what he said. You know, that was a quote he used, the phrase he used, which was then used back. And the senior counsel for James Lawrence said, well, the lovey-dovey stuff that was happening was suggestive that you two were going to go into the room and have sex, which he denied. It was then put to her that the door was open and that they could be heard having sex. There was moaning noises to indicate that you were having a good time, to which he says, I don't agree. It was then put to her that while she was in the room with Mr. McGregor having what he quotes pleasurable sex, Mr. Lawrence and Danielle began having sex in the first room, to which she said, I don't know. It was then put to her, I'm going to suggest you did go in and out and witness them having sex and you didn't feel unhappy or distressed. Nikita replied, I think this is another made up story. I can't agree. It was then put to her that it went on for some time, enough time that Mr. Lawrence had sex 3 times with Danielle. But at one point it was put to her as well that James could see her naked on top of Conor McGregor having sex in the bedroom, to which she just said it was lies. At one point then it was put to her that, and we heard this again yesterday, that when she came out of the room, James's head was down near Danielle's stomach and you called him a, quote, dirty bastard for licking her out. And she just said, that's disgusting, which is what her response was to that as well yesterday. Then it was put to her that it all a made up story because she was allegedly fast asleep this whole time, to which she said she was. It was then put to her that she only woke up and remembered going up and down in a lift with James, to which she said yes, that is all she can remember. It was then put to her that when she was brought in for a Garda interview the second time, she was asked, does she have any account of what happened between 6 o'clock and 10:20 when she left? And she said no. And she said that she couldn't remember because what she had suffered in that room was traumatizing and she was hurt. It was then put to her that after going up and down in the lift, you start and you see the bruises, that's when things start coming back to you, to which she agrees. Then she went on to say to James, you all put blind eyes to what Conor does to women, and it was put to her that was a very clear memory she had, and she said yes, it is. It's then put to her that she uses that phrase for the first time on the 5th of January when she's been interviewed by Gardaí, and she said yes, it is what she said to Gardaí because she does have a vivid memory of it.
This wasn't in the original statement she'd given to
This
Gardaí.
wasn't, exactly. Then it was put to her that she could remember James putting his hand to his head and saying, I can't believe I was in here when that happened to you, and she agreed. But then it was put to her that she had no memory, but all of a sudden the clouds parted and she remembers this part of the conversation with James, to which she agrees. It's put to her that she remembers the food. Again, she said, I agree. She remembers a burger and chips being there, but she doesn't remember eating it. Then it was put to her that she was shown some stills from the CCTV footage, and senior counsel for James Lawrence at this point wanted to put the CCTV footage to her. So they went off and started to prepare that, but then we ended up taking lunch. Came back from lunch and the CCTV was ready to be played. So at this point, the CCTV that's played is a period of time between 1851, where she's in the lift with James, and 1929. So it suggested to her that when she's in the lift with James, she was looking affectionate with him. She was biting his ear despite being violently raped. And again, she has no memory of being in the lift. There is also a gap in time. So
what does she say to that? She's no memory of being in the lift.
She's no memory of being in the lift. There's a gap in time, and she returns into the lift, the two of them, at 7:29. So she said that she has no memory of this. It was put to her that it clearly shows that they left and came back. And she said she has no memory. It was then asked, did you go back up to the room then? And she said yes. So it was put to her that they left the hotel for a period of 20 minutes with one of the drivers and then came back and went upstairs, to which she said she doesn't recall. Then we go to CCTV footage of her leaving the hotel with Mr. Lawrence at 22:18, and it's put to her that she's leaving arm in arm with him. And she says, what I can see, it's put to her that she doesn't look distressed. And she says, well, what I see here is that I'm very, very drunk. I'm hitting off walls and I'm stumbling. And then it's put to her that she has just been hit by the steam train of having just been raped, but that's the way she was acting. And she says, no, I can't recall. Then she was put to her that she had previously been asked about her attraction to James Lawrence. And she said that it was an emphatic not at all, to which she agreed. This was put to her back by Gardaí. And she said that she had been consistent in her answer that there was no attraction there at all, and she didn't find him attractive at all. And it was sort of in relation to that CCTV footage that had been played. And she said, I don't remember what the CCTV footage is or being there in that moment, but it was put to her that it might be the case that you aren't attracted to him, but I need to road test this evidence. So it's kind of put to her that they were touching in a playful manner. She said she was completely drunk, her mind was gone. Then it's put to her that she's kissing Mr. Lawrence, but he's not kissing her. And she said she has no memory. And again, it's put to her that he has to road test the sworn evidence in court. She, was put to her that CCTV footage suggests the opposite. She does say she can't look at it anymore. It's too uncomfortable. She has no memory of it. And the judge interjects and says, we're going to get the same answer every single time from her. The jury can rewatch this whenever they want. The case is already put to her in relation to this. And she says she can't watch any more of it. The judge then interjects again and says that she's already given the answer, that she wasn't attracted to him. She was very drunk and she doesn't accept what's being put to her in relation to her supposedly being attracted to James Lawrence. It was put to her as well that she had said to James Lawrence, had asked him if he wanted to leave and go to the Marble Arch pub for a further party. And she said she would never have ever said that to him because she'd never been there. She doesn't like going there. It was then put to her that they started kissing. This conversation and this act of them apparently kissing happened in that 20-minute gap where they had left the hotel. So it was put to her that they started kissing in the car and they asked to go back to the hotel room to continue the intimacy to the point where they began having consensual sex using a condom. And again, she said, I believe it's a made-up story. It's put to her that she mentioned twice now that she's heard made up stories. That's always her position. And she said, yes, she agreed with that. After having sex, it was put to her that they got food to the room. She said, no, I got upset in the room. She broke down. He told me to relax, get a drink. He'd get her food. And again, she mentioned that she recalls this burger and chips and she woke up in a taxi and that's all she can remember. It was then put to her that there was a spare condom. So they used it to have consensual sex again for a second time. And she asked, what is she going to tell her boyfriend about the bruising on her arms? And at this point, she had been upset about it and she said she doesn't remember that happening. It was put to her then that she had cheered up and her demeanour had changed. And she said that this was not true. It was put to her then that she was attempting to edit James Lawrence out of the case and he's brought himself back into it by these accounts that he has given of them having consensual sex twice. And she said she's no memory of that. And it was then put to her that it wouldn't be a good look for someone trying to accuse another man of rape after having consensual sex twice with his friend. And she said she didn't agree. So that's where her cross-examination ended by James Lawrence's senior counsel. Her own senior counsel just had a couple of quick questions for her. So it was just relation to clothing. So it was put to her that she had, consensual sex with Conor McGregor, and she disagrees, to which she agreed with that. It was then mentioned by her senior counsel that she got changed into pyjamas when she got home. And she said, yes, she got changed into those pyjamas. It was then said that evidence will hear that the guards collected the underwear and clothes from her house and took photographs. She's seen the photographs at this stage, the jury hasn't. It was then said, we will see the CCTV footage from the ambulance, and in that CCTV she's wearing the pyjamas. But he does go back to the jumpsuit. So she shows her and the jury pictures of the jumpsuit as well as her underwear. So on the jumpsuit there is a sticker that says RHS, which is the right hand side, and there is damage to the strap. She's asked, was that damage there when you left the house? She said no. Then she was asked about damage to the strap of her underwear, and she said that damage was not there when she originally went out. Asked what caused that damage, she said Conor, when he was trying to rape her. And then he also went into one other issue that he had, and that was in relation to the portion of the interview where she said she wasn't attracted to James Lawrence. Her senior counsel just wanted to give the context of that question and how it came up. And it came up because, in her clear opinion, she didn't have sex with him, and she believes it's a made-up story. So she was asked about consent, and in relation to that, if there was consent there, does she understand, consent around having sex? And she says she wouldn't have given consent because she had a boyfriend and she had just been raped by somebody else. The Gardaí then asked her in her interview if James could have assumed consent, and she said, no, I had bruises on my body and he would have seen me crying, so he couldn't have assumed consent from that. Now,
she was stood down from the witness box at some point in the afternoon, or was that to the end of the day?
Yeah, so that was quite late in the afternoon, and we were brought in our next witness. So during the course of the rest of the afternoon, we hear from two more witnesses. The first of those witnesses is Emer Brennan, who was the manager of the salon, and again, this was the first friend whose house she went to.
So she's a witness for Nikita Hand, who has stood down from the witness box and is sitting in the courtroom.
Yeah, so she is only brought in after Nikita Hand has given her witness statement. So she comes in afterwards.
And Nikita Hand sits in the body of the courtroom now, listening to the evidence.
Yes, so she's back in the body of the courtroom. Again, a lot of what we heard from Emer is a lot of stuff we've already went over, but it's just kind of confirming information about the story in regards to when they went to the salon, where they had been that night, who was there, what time, Emer went home that morning. We then hear that she left a black jumpsuit in the salon, and this was the black jumpsuit that Nikita changed into that morning in the salon before she went out. So Nikita was wearing that when she got to Emer's house later in the day, and it was kind of asked, do you borrow clothes between each other in the salon? To which she said, yeah, it wasn't really an unusual thing. So then we kind of go into that later on in that day. So we hear Emer comes back into the story. She leaves the salon 7 a.m. That's the last time she sees Nikita. The next time she sees her is coming up to 11 o'clock that night. Nikita rings her and said, hi, how are you? It was kind of Emer was asking, how did you get on last night? Were you home yet? That sort of thing. And Nikita was crying on the other end of the phone. She said she hadn't got home yet. The phone call ended, and between Nikita, she said, I'll be at your house soon, because she had these salon keys she wanted to give back. So Emer, they hang up, and between her hanging up the phone and getting to Emer's house, Nikita sends her a text message, and the text message said that herself and Danielle went to a hotel last night with Conor McGregor and he raped me. Emer, I'm battered and broken. How will I explain this to Stephen? Then Emer says that after that phone call, she went outside to wait for the taxi so that she could keep an eye out for it coming. She brought Nikita into her house. She had her shoes in her hands. She had her coat in her hands. She brought her in, put her on the couch, tied up her hair. She said she saw all this bruising and asked her where she had been. Kind of Nikita told her about the story that she was in the hotel. They had drinks there. They ended up in the bedroom with herself and Conor. He was kissing her and pulling out of her. And she said that she had said to Conor that her boyfriend Steve knew Dee's family, and also said that she had put up a fight and bit him. After she had been choked, she said to him, please don't do that again. And he said he wouldn't if she stopped biting him. And then it was the comment about imagine how I felt in the octagon. So at this point, she was going to let him do whatever he wanted to do. But she'd said to Emer that when it was all over, it was kind of nice because they lay in the bed and it was nice. She said it was going to sound weird, but it was actually nice because she knew it was all over, that the ordeal was behind her. She then woke up. She told Emer that she woke up, she saw 2 security guards walking into the room and she thought she was going to be gang raped by the men. So she ran out of the room and went into the other part of the hotel, which is again the sitting room, to find Danielle, and Danielle wasn't there. Nikita also told Emer that she had said to James about turning a blind eye to what Conor McGregor does to women. In Emer's recounting of the story, Nikita came to her after she tried to go to the home of Jennifer Redmond, who was her sister-in-law, so Steve's sister, but couldn't get an answer at the door. We heard from Nikita's testimony that she tried to ring Jennifer and she couldn't get a hold of her, so that's why she went to Emer's. She then advised Nikita not to take a shower, to go to the Dublin Rape Crisis Centre, and at this point she offered to take photographs of her body. So she took pictures of her arms and legs, her breast, her jawline, and she was shown photographs then that was taken of Nikita 24 hours later. So she went into the sexual assault unit on the morning of the 10th. She didn't want to get the photographs taken then, so they were taken then on the morning of the 11th, and she was shown these photographs and was asked, are these the same images of the same injuries that Nikita presented to you when she came to her home? And she said yes. Now, if we remember, we've heard evidence that Nikita asked Emer Brennan to delete photographs from her phone. So that evening she had taken these photographs on her phone and decided to delete them. The reason she decided to delete them is we heard from Nikita's testimony that she asked her to delete them, but in fact we hear then from Emer's testimony, it's put to her that she told Gardaí she decided herself to delete them. It was in the papers and she was feeling the pressure from the media, so she decided to delete the texts and photographs.
Headlines saying sports star rapes girl or something.
Yes. So it was put to her then, do you accept that you told the guards that you decided to delete them, despite the fact that she had, we had heard in previous testimony from Nikita that she had told her. So she was kind of at this point said, I'm a bit shaky. I'm under a lot of pressure here. Yes, she did ask me to delete them. But frankly, I'm not questioning that. They were deleted. I did delete them. They're gone, to that effect. So at this point then the cross-examination was over, and she went back. She was dismissed as a witness. Then we heard from Sergeant John Ryan, who was a detective who got involved with the case the morning of the 10th. So he was called by the ambulance to the scene, and we hear he just reiterates his notes that he took that morning. So from his notebook, I suppose it's the initial kind of bullet points of what happened. A lot of these notes again reflect evidence we've already heard, that she had been drinking that she had been drinking Bacardi and beer. He originally wrote down vodka and then changed it to Bacardi, that she took cocaine, didn't know what time the incident occurred at, wouldn't name the suspect, wouldn't name the friend she was with, but was in a hotel, mentioned that the suspect had tried to choke her and tried to stop her breathing 3 or 4 times. It also mentioned that she'd lost a nail while trying to fight the suspect, that she thought she was going to be killed during the struggle. He also made a note that she knew the suspect was afraid to name him. Again, she had a tampon in, she hadn't had a bath or a shower since the incident, and that she'd been vaginally raped and the suspect ejaculated. Also, we heard evidence that she said that she had been orally raped and the suspect also used his fingers. We also heard as well that she had this tampon in at the time of the incident and still did at that period of time. She was still wearing the same underwear. They were all his bullet points, his notes that he took. He gave a full statement to Gardaí, kind of a lengthened, it was a synopsized version, but it was kind of in order of events. And he had spoke to her back at her own home. He asked her to make a statement when they got back to her house. So after being in the sexual assault unit, they drove back with 2 of his female colleagues to her home to take her there, wanted to get a statement. She said no, she wasn't pressing charges, and asked at that point, do you consent to photographs? And she said no, she'll do it the next day. And she also refused to hand over the pyjamas that she was wearing at the clinic. But eventually the Gardaí did take possession of the jumpsuit and the underwear that she had on. and she was asked about the state of the complainant, you know, what was the mood like, what was she like? And he just said that she was extremely upset. Then there was cross-examination by Conor McGregor's legal counsel, and they asked about the hotel room. Where was the hotel room? And he says that she stated she was in a hotel but couldn't remember which hotel. There was no mention of the Morgan or kind of any other hotel name at that time, to which he agreed no, there wasn't. And then it was the end of the cross-examination. There was no questions from James Lawrence's legal team. And at this point, the judge asked the guard before he left the stand, was she drunk at the time that he had encountered her in the sexual assault treatment unit? And he said no, that she was just very upset. And that was the end of his testimony. And that was the end of day 4 and the end of this week. And any indications before they closed as regards what's coming next week or what's happening on Monday? Yes, so we're not back in court until Tuesday morning. The next witness is a Mr. Dempsey. He's a member of the ambulance crew who attended to Nikita's home and was in the ambulance bringing her to the hospital. He's not available till Tuesday, so he will be the next person on the stand. And I believe there'll also be CCTV footage from the ambulance played. We've heard this mentioned a couple of times previously, but it will be played for the jury on Tuesday. Okay. And Conor McGregor again in the court along with James Lawrence. Do they sit together or are they? So what happens is they are sitting in the same row. There's 4, so usually you would sit on a bench, as you know, in a courtroom, but there is 4 kind of extra like singular chairs that make up a back row for them to sit on. And there is, I suppose, Conor McGregor, his father, another member of their party, and their chairs are relatively close together, and then there's a gap, and James Lawrence is sat there, and he has people with him as well in the court. May not necessarily be sitting with him, but I do see familiar faces with him daily. And Nikita Hand has members of her family or whatever with her as well. Exactly, yes. Okay, so we'll leave that till next week. Thanks very much, Clodagh. Thank you. I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.